Hey, 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 happy Thursday. Pull up a chair, come on right in. Because, wow, what about, jeez, I'm like completely off my nut today. It's, it's, come on, come on in, pull up a chair. The Daily Dope is in the air. Howdy, 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 gang. Yes, I'm Jeff McAleer. I'm your host here at The Daily Dope, presented by thegaminggang.com. So that was a weird way to open the show. Smokey was on my lap, and just as I started the show, she hopped out underneath the table that's in front of me and got me pretty good with her claws. So it's like, what am I trying to say here? Anyway, tonight is Thursday, I should say May 2nd. See, look, I'm so discombobulated. Let me grab a sip here. So, tonight is May 2nd, 2019. It is episode 295 of The Daily Dope. So this is a live stream. If you are watching on YouTube live right now, there is chat available. So if you'd like to say hello, by all means, please do. If you have a question, fire away. Or maybe if there's something that you want to get a closer look at for the Dungeons & Dragons Stranger Things starter set that I am reviewing tonight, by all means, fire away and I will respond. Do want to point out, chat is not available on screen, and it's one of the ways that I keep some of the stranger commenters at bay. Now, if you watch the video and you like the video, please give it a thumbs up. If you check out some of the videos on the Gaming Gang channel and you enjoy them, be sure to subscribe. And don't forget, ring that little bell, because when you do that, it will not only notify you when there is a new video popping up, it'll also tell you when the stream goes live within about 5 minutes or so. And Rob Moffat's popping in. He's hanging out today. Rob might have missed the whole discombobulation of the opening of the show. It was like, does this guy know what he's even talking about here? Jeez, what's going on? So, also want to point out, if you like the Gaming Gang channel, if you check out thegaminggang.com, if you like the website, like the show, by all means, tell a friend. Help spread the word. I am in my 9th year of tackling tabletop gaming. So, anyway, let's get into the show tonight. I do not have news tonight. There were a couple of news pieces I thought were fairly interesting. Of course, we've got the Origins Award nominees were announced as well. I'm not going to sit here and just read down a list of nominees, so that, of course, will go up on thegaminggang.com as a news item. The other news items that I ran across that were kind of interesting, I think I'll keep in my pocket till tomorrow. So, one thing I did notice just before I went on, I saw Peter Mayhew passed away. And if you are familiar with Peter Mayhew, he played Chewbacca in the original Star Wars movies. In fact, if memory serves me correctly, I think he even played Chewbacca into the prequels. I know he has not played Chewbacca in the new trilogy, but yeah, I heard he passed away, and that's too bad. Although, I gotta be honest, I had heard that past few years were not good to him. He had a hard time getting around, really major back problems, things like that. I think he had money issues too. That's why you wouldn't see him at too many of the like Star Wars conventions and things like that, because he just couldn't make it. So, sorry to hear Peter Mayhew passed away. So, Unscripted and Unchained RPG Review is popping in. Oh, it's going good. Welcome aboard. I believe you are a first-timer. So, before I get into my review of Dungeons & Dragons Stranger Things starter set, let's talk a little bit about what's coming up on the Daily Dope. I was so engrossed in doing my unboxing for Warfighter yesterday and taking a look at the expansions that had come from Dan Verson Games, I didn't even talk about what was coming up on the show. So, oops. So, do want to point out on tomorrow's show, I will be reviewing Forum Trajanum from Stronghold Games, designed by Stefan Feld. So, I will be finally getting my review of that done. Monday's show, I will be doing a review of Fallout Wasteland Warfare from Odysseus Entertainment. We should be getting this to the table quite a bit this weekend. Then on Tuesday's show, I'm not positive what's cooking yet. I do understand that Things from the Flood is on its way from Free League Publishing, so maybe that's what we'll do on next Thursday's RPG show. Probably next Wednesday's War Game Wednesday, I will do my unboxing of not only the Time of Crisis core game, but also the Age of Iron and Rust expansion. Take a look at both of those on next Wednesday's show. So Tuesday's kind of up in the air. Not sure what I'll do. You know, I've got some smaller footprint games I'd like to kind of bust out, do maybe a little bit of how to play and some reviews as well. So Flaming Huron's popping in too. Good evening to you, Flaming Huron. Good to have you back. Okay, so one other thing I wanted to point out. If you follow me on Twitter, I tweeted this earlier today. I saw this thread kind of bouncing around. It's Thursdays. I love talking about RPGs on Thursdays, so this fits right in. Somebody had this tweet thread going, talking about how if you play role-playing games, then you can game master a role-playing game. That it is not difficult to be a game master. Anybody can be a game master. Okay, I will give you that much. Anybody can be a game master. If you want to be a lousy game master, sure. I don't buy into that. I don't believe that. I don't think everybody can be a game master if they're already a player. Because not only have I played with people that I could not possibly imagine them being game masters, I have played with game masters that I thought were terrible. So no, I don't buy that. I don't believe that in the slightest bit. So there was some going back and forth on it, and most people were like, "Oh yeah, sure thing. Yeah, it's easy being a DM. I can be a dungeon master. It's super simple." No, it's not. It is not. Not if you're going to be an entertaining game master. There's work involved, and you got to think on your feet. You can't be one of these people who's like, "Oh, hold on a second. Let me look that up in the rule book," because that will kill a game deader than Caesar, I'm telling you. So yeah, I don't know. I got an email from somebody. They didn't tweet me back. They emailed me telling me I didn't know what I was talking about. And I'm like, oh, okay. I guess I don't. I've only been, running Call of Cthulhu for 30 plus years, but whatever. Hey, the Madman's popping in. Good to see you, Madman. I know you had threatened me on Twitter that you were going to show up. I'm just kidding. I don't mean a real threat. Yes, so you and you, I guess I'll say for short, agree. Not everyone can be a game master, and not many want to be. Yeah, I don't blame people for not wanting to be a game master. My best friend, Elliot Miller, over at voiceofe.com, who is going to be with me at Gen Con this year when I'm covering Gen Con. Back when we were in high school, he did a little bit of game mastering. He game mastered some Star Trek, the old fastest Star Trek role-playing game. He did some Stormbringer back when it was from Chaosium. I think he did a little Hawkmoon too. But he did not do a lot of game mastering. It was mainly up to me, especially after we got out of high school. Because, we had some friends in high school who were also game masters, but it still was mainly me. But my friend Tim did Top Secret. We didn't really play D&D. I don't remember us really playing any Dungeons and Dragons. We played just everything, but we played Top Secret. We played Gamma World. We played Morrow Project was one that we played quite a bit. We played Behind Enemy Lines, the old World War II role-playing game. We played tons and tons of stuff. But it was usually kind of like one of my friends like Scott or Tim would game master a game, and we may never ever play that game again. So I was kind of the go-to game master, which was fine, which was cool. I had a blast. So Flaming Huron asks, speaking of role-playing games, what's my take on the Shadowrun 6th edition, which was announced? That's one of the news stories that I had kind of bounced around. Maybe you popped in after I had mentioned this. Thankfully, most of you coming in didn't catch the beginning of the show. As I start the show off, Smokey, my cat, was on my lap, and just as I start saying, "Hey, happy Thursday," she goes flying off my lap and got me good with her claws, and I'm like, I'm like, what am I saying? I'm like, pull up a chair, come on in. What the hell am I? Anyway, so what do I think of the 6th edition of Shadowrun? I have not seen it. I have not heard much about it. I do know it's coming out. Okay, my personal opinion is I think it's a little too early for a 6th edition of Shadowrun. It wasn't that long ago that they did a 5th edition of Shadowrun. I don't have a dog in the fight. I had the original. I had original Shadowrun, and I thought it was really, really cool. I never ran it. I'd pick up the books. Come on, I'm a game master. That's all we ever do. We'd pick up all these role-playing games and adventures and stuff like that for systems we don't run, read them, enjoy them, still don't run them. We may steal an item here and there. But I think, in my opinion, Catalyst Game Labs is not the best run company around. So I think they've kind of fumbled the ball a bit, especially when it comes to stuff like Battletech. I mean, Battletech used to be just printing money. Not so much anymore. And personally, I think a 6th edition of Shadowrun, it's coming across as a money grab to me, because I don't think it was that long ago we had a 5th edition. And there have been some releases for Shadowrun, source books, what have you. Off the top of my head, I can't think of the names of them, that have really riled some people up. There were some that I think there was one that was like very sexualized, and people were very upset by that. So I don't know. So any thoughts on Savage Worlds 2.0? I have not seen it. I have not seen Savage Worlds 2.0, which is, not unusual. Hey, Kabuki Kids popping in too. All right, so we got a pretty good crowd here in chat right now. So I am going to move into looking at the D&D Stranger Things starter set in just a moment. Do want to point out, I got railed on. I got a couple of emails telling me, hey, what happened to Lil Bub yesterday? It's like, sorry, I thought maybe I'd take a break from always talking about Lil Bub on every show. And it was like, what's going on? How come I wasn't promoting a Lil Bub? So it's like, okay, all right. Not only do I have my Lil Whiz Bub, ooh, yeah, that's right, my little Whiz Bub, I actually have my life-size bub. I will actually pull my life-size bub down. I still love my little bub. So, come on. You can relax. Nothing's wrong. So, as I like to always point out, as I block out some of the light by putting my life-size little bub down, if you're a fan of the Gaming Gang, if you like the Gaming Gang channel, the website, the Daily Dope, keeping in mind none of this is for profit, please consider making a small donation to Lil Bub's Big Fund and the American Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals. Yes, Lil Bub's Big Fund does supply grant monies to organizations around the United States that cares for special needs animals. Now, these animals might be blind, they might be deaf, they might require medications every day, maybe they have mobility issues, maybe they're just long in the tooth like yours truly. Regardless, these pets still deserve good homes, and I can tell you for a fact, any love you invest in these pets will be repaid to you tenfold at least. So, always like to point out, if you like the show, if you like the website, please consider making a very small donation to Lil Bub and Lil Bub's Big Fund. Important to point out, 100% of all funds that are raised by Lil Bub's Big Fund are awarded as grants. So that is not something the American Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals does for everything they do. Lil Bub's Big Fund, 100% of those funds. So there we go. Flaming Heron says arranges the Lil Bub fan club. So I'm sure folks are tuning in because they want to learn more about the Dungeons and Dragons Stranger Things starter set from Hasbro Gaming, Wizards of the Coast, and Netflix. It's written by Jeremy Crawford, Ben Petrosor, and Stan! With artwork provided by Stan! I guess that's the person's name. I thought maybe it was supposed to be a character from Stranger Things, but no, I guess it is a real artist who goes by the name Stan. The game is for 3 or more players, ages 14 and up. It's a role-playing game, so as far as playing time, that is pretty open-ended, although what's in this box is limited. And it does carry an MSRP of $24.99. This arrived in stores about a couple weeks ago. I did an unboxing for it. Actually, I think it's maybe about a week and a half ago. So let's move on over to the other camera. So you may have seen the unboxing video that I did for the D&D Stranger Things starter set. And as I was doing the unboxing, I was kind of commenting on, as I was taking stuff out, taking a look at it and things like that. And I could already tell I was going to be disappointed with this, because you could even kind of notice in my voice during the unboxing the disappointment that I had. Kabuki Kid says the retro box is fun. Yes, it is a cool retro box. It is fun. It's maybe some of the only fun you're going to have in this box. So one thing I do want to point out as I jump into this, I don't like giving bad reviews. I really don't. I don't get my jollies from it or anything like that. But I have to be honest with the audience, because if I blow smoke up your butt and say, "Oh, that's really good. Oh, you need to go get this," that would mean I'd be a liar. I really would. So let me pop in. So Flaming Heron's like, "Yeah, retro box is fun, but not sure for that price." Yes, I would agree with you on that. In fact, I will talk about the pricing when I wrap up my review too. Okay, so first of all, as I open this up, I want to tell you that the starter set, I'm just going to refer to it as the starter set. I'm not going to sit there with the whole Dungeons and Dragons, Stranger Things starter. I'm just going to call it the starter set. So first off, as I open the box, I'm going to tell you right now, this stinks. And I'm not talking about the actual components, the quality or anything like that. I'm talking about it literally stinks. I don't know what is causing the smell in here. I think it's these rubber miniatures is what I figure. Yes, and Madman chimes in, saying open mind today, slim pickings inside. Oh yeah. Yes, yes, yes. And we are going to take a look at these pickings and the slimness of them. Just a moment. Okay, so, and then it's weird how this is kind of like put together. Okay, so we're going to get a set of dice. We're going to look at the dice in a sec. I know a lot of people are like, "Oh, wow, I'm like super pumped about the Demogorgon and painted and unpainted mini in here. And that's, what I'm really looking forward to." I don't know, for $25 you're going to look forward to it. But just the way it's laid out is like all this space is wasted in this box. We've got this insert here. Really, all it's there to do is hold this plastic in place so that the painted Demogorgon ends up in the little window on the box. I'm going to zoom in on these Demogorgon so you can get a better look at them, because one's painted, one's unpainted, and I got to be honest with you, there isn't a hell of a lot of difference between the two of them. Oh, and I hear Pinky's making her way on down. Yes. All right. I still have not done the picture of Pinky, so that when we hear her caterwauling, that I like just flash it up there, like flash it, Pinky alert. Because, like I say, if you watch the show, you're never going to see Pinky. She is not a lap cat. She doesn't come up on my lap, anything like that. So we've got the two Demogorgon minis, and it's like a rubberized plastic for these. So this is our painted, and this is our unpainted. So the painted almost has like almost like a little bit of a wash to it, not much of one, and a little bit of red paint just kind of rubbed inside its head. That is considered our painted Demogorgon. And when I say this is like rubber, I'm not kidding. I can bend this. I can twist this around. So having an unpainted Demogorgon here is pretty ridiculous, made out of this material, because you're never going to be able to get the paint to adhere. It's too soft. It's too rubbery. The arm, I mean, granted, okay, so this part here, yeah, I can kind of squeeze this closed almost. You try to paint this, even if you cure it, even if you cure this, it is still not going to be able to be stiff enough for the paint to adhere to. So, reality is, these are ridiculous. I mean, come on. There's nothing to them. I mean, the sculpt is cool enough. I mean, the sculpt is fine. I mean, it's not super detailed, but it's got a bit of detail to it. So if this was actually a hard plastic, you'd be able to paint this up. Now, would it be a fantastic Demogorgon? Not necessarily, but still. So one of the aspects that people were all pumped about in this starter set are the Demogorgon minis, and they're terrible. They're terrible. So there we go. There we got the Demogorgon. The painted and unpainted. And I just laugh because it's like, oh, we got the painted and we got unpainted. And it's like, what? So a little red paint? That's basically it. That's it. That's the whole thing. It's a bit of red paint. Let's look at the dice. Okay, so we get a standard set of gaming dice, which is fine. Although it's a 10-sided, isn't it? One of these dice, there's already some of the ink coming off of it. Some of the paint was coming off. I forget which one. So the 8-sided, one of them, one of the numbers already has like half of the paint off of it. And I was like, really? These dice haven't even been rolled. So it was like, so Mad Men says, wish painting my house was that easy. It is. If you just want to make it red, just take some red paint, splash it on, you're done. So if you're familiar with Dungeons and Dragons, yeah, you'd be using these dice. Now, granted, you'd be using usually 3 6-sided dice. That's what I don't understand. Number one, I don't like the numbered dice, 6-sided dice. I don't care for those. I use 6-siders with pips. I always thought it was weird when you get a set of gaming dice, you get the 1 6-sided die. When normally, even like when you're rolling up characters for D&D, old school, Renaissance kind of game mechanics, you use either 3 or 4 6-sided dice. So Kabuki Kid says somebody tumbled them too long or something, as far as the die with the paint coming off. So yeah, I don't know. That's possible. To be honest, it's not like these dice are going through a ChessX sort of program to make sure that they're like pristine, awesome dice. It's like the guy who owns ChessX is always talking about, why do our dice roll so pure? They actually have a video about the process. So, percentile dice, book even tells you, roll your 10-sided die twice. What? You couldn't give me 2 percentile dice? You couldn't give me another 10-sider that says a percentile or a different color? I understand you've got the kind of blue, which I actually do like the kind of design to it, to the blue. But come on, you couldn't give me a percentile dice? And then This is 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons. We've got advantage and disadvantage. That means you're rolling 2 20-sided dice. Oh, right there. There's a fumble. That's a critical fumble. That's the overall game itself is a critical fumble. You couldn't give us another 20-sided die? So, I don't know. I thought that was very weird. And yes, I know it's just your typical set of gaming dice, but it's D&D with advantage, and it'll even tell you, okay, roll the 20-sided die twice. If you've got advantage, take the highest number rolled. If it's disadvantage, take the lowest rolled. So Fleming Huron says that they would pay a little extra for a second set of dice if a game was worth it. I mean, seriously, you can go on Amazon. You can get the same kind of gaming dice set like this for about $3-4. So Kabuki Kid says they tumble the dice, smooth the corners, then they dip them in paint, then tumble them with some sand or whatnot to take off the paint. Paint stays in the numbers. I don't know if that's how they go about doing these dice. Be the first one to point that out. I do not know if they go through this kind of process. So, all right, so we got the dice. The dice are kind of like, yeah, okay. I mean, the dice are fine. Like I said, some paint coming off one of the dice, and I'm just kind of surprised there isn't another percentile or an extra 20-sided die. Neither here nor there. It's just kind of, a little disappointment. Which is kind of the name of the game when it comes to taking a look at the starter set here. I'm going to zoom back out. We're going to take a look at the rule book. Let's get back on out here. I'm going to move this box out of the way, because then we're going to look at the character sheets, and we'll be looking at the adventure, if you want to call it that. So we've got a starter set rule book. Here's something that I think is important to note. So this is the Dungeons and Dragons Stranger Things starter set rulebook. At no point does Hasbro really go out of their way to make sure that people understand this is not a Stranger Things role-playing game. This is not Stranger Things with the 5th edition mechanics. That is not what this is. So what it basically is, it's a starter set for D&D. It's themed towards Stranger Things, and the theming of Stranger Things is simply the images that are used in this rulebook. That's really it. I guarantee you there are people out there who are thinking, oh wow, so this is like a D&D Stranger Things. Sweet, man. We'll buy it. We're gonna play like Stranger Things. No, that's not it. It is D&D. It's presented as if, especially the adventure, which we'll get into in a sec, as if you're the kids in Stranger Things playing D&D. But you're not playing the kids in Stranger Things. You're just playing the same characters they do. Which supposedly, it's supposed to be the adventure that they're in the midst of in the first season of Stranger Things. So looking through the rule book here, very, very similar in approach as the Dungeons and Dragons starter box. The original starter set, which is still available. You can still get it just about anywhere, and I'll talk about that in just a moment. So we just have the layout about the abilities, talking about ability checks, talking about the different skills, combat. So I mean, this is all just for like 1st through 5th level. All the like Forgotten Realms Chrome has been stripped away from the basic game here. So it's just talking about pretty much mechanics. So talking about adventuring, travel, jumping, climbing, resting, equipment, few different charts of armor as well as weapons. So really, really basic stuff, but very similar as we have in the starter set that's been out for a few years, that rolled out when 5th edition rolled out. As you can see, all we've got here for the different chapters is just stock images from Stranger Things. It's not as if this is somebody's going way out of their way to theme this for Stranger Things. There are some examples where it's kind of, the examples are as if it's the D&D characters for the characters in the show. But the rest of it, it's just pretty much very generic kind of D&D. So Kabuki Kid says some original art would have been nice. I agree. The only piece of original artwork that cries out Stranger Things is the box cover. That's it. That's the only thing that really has a Stranger Things vibe as far as the artwork itself, because everything else is just photographs. We get into the spells, so we got the spell list. I mean, and it's fine. Like I said, I mean, this basic starter rulebook is fine. I liked the original box set that came out, so I'm not going to knock this rulebook that's almost exactly the same thing. I wish I had had a chance to snag my starter box that doesn't have dice, which I had given to my nephew Cameron, because we could have kind of done a little bit of comparison. So, as you can see, this book is pretty bland. If there isn't just an image of something from Stranger Things to open up a chapter, there's nothing here to get your juices flowing for D&D. So Madman says, only good I see, possibly trying to gain new gamers from Stranger Things success. Don't see any other value. I will talk about that in a moment. Hey, Solomon Kane, welcome aboard. I happen to be a big fan of Robert E. Howard's Solomon Kane stories. I'm kind of done with Wizards of the Coast. There are more creative games in the OSR, or games that are just preferable to 5e, and the juggernaut that is WotC. I can understand that. I will actually comment on the juggernaut aspect in just a moment. I'm gonna finish up with kind of going through these books, talking about my thoughts about them, and then we'll address a few things that are popping up here in chat. Spending nearly 0 on art is a red flag. What are you talking about? Look at this. Look at I know what a Demogorgon looks like now, because I have an unpainted and painted miniature. That's it. I'm kidding. If I wasn't familiar with the show, you'd be like, what the hell? Doppelganger? Evil mage? Bugbear? So the one thing that is different with this starter book is the monsters that are included are monsters that are going to be in the adventure. So just kind of flipping through, but there's no pictures, there's no images. An owlbear, okay. So how am I going to sell this owlbear here? How do I describe it? It says the owlbear's reputation for ferocity, stubbornness, and sheer ill temper makes it one of the most feared predators of the wild. There is little, if anything, that a hungry owlbear fears. How am I supposed to present that to players? What makes the owlbear any different than an ogre, right? Isn't an ogre ferocious too? Probably kind of, in a bad mood too. So then we've got talking about conditions, and then we finish up. Don't even get a reference chart on the back. Still, though, I will point out that this is not terrible. The starter set rulebook is not terrible. The starter set rulebook from the real D&D starter set is much better, in my opinion. Plus, there's artwork. But part of it is because they were going with this Stranger Thing motif, so they've stripped out any other kind of artwork, even though you are not actually playing a Stranger Things themed game. Kabuki Kid says, what's goofy is they already have art for all these monsters. Why didn't they just recycle it? Don't know. I have no idea. All right, so there's the rule book. Now, we'll save the adventure book for last. So we've got some pre-generated characters. So I do want to point out that the starter set is for ages 14 and up. It's for 3 or more players. It'd be 2 players. It's an RPG. The whole 14 and up part, though, the whole 14 and up thing is basically because there's dice you could swallow, kids. Maybe the Demogorgons. You could swallow these. That's why it's 14 and up. There is absolutely nothing in this that would chase off, say, kids who are 12 or older. So we get some pre-gens. The pre-gens are basically the characters that supposedly the characters in Stranger Things are playing as. So it says, I've been reading new Forbidden Lands starter books. Love the creativity. It's like a post-apocalyptic Forgotten Realms. Yeah, actually, Forbidden Lands is still one of my more popular reviews that people check out. And that was one of my top games of 2018. I really, really like it. There's a few parts of it that I probably would not run as written. But yeah, really, really enjoyed it. And it really does have an old school Renaissance vibe to it. Old school revival, whatever you want to throw the R out there for. They should have made a Stranger Things deluxe starter set and charged an extra $10, says Solomon Kane. I don't know. What could be the deluxe part of it? Getting 3 Demogorgons? I don't know. So really, all it basically is already filled out character sheets for the different players. Talks about, okay, so this is a half-orc ranger. Gives you some information on, like, the half-orc, the ranger, some background on the character. These characters are already 3rd level, which to me I think is kind of bizarre too, because you're starting off, it's a starter set, and now you're going to be playing characters, because the rules only go up to 5th level. You're going to start off with a character who's 3rd level, and then it talks about, oh, okay, what happens when the character hits 4th level or 5th level. And that's basically how these are all written up. So, you know, we've got the different characters that supposedly the characters in the show are playing. Deluxe would have been higher quality stuff. 2D10 artwork. WizKids minis. Oh, Solomon Kane. No. I can't imagine. Oh, I agree. I mean, I think it would have been very, very cool if they had actually gone in the direction of making something that really was Stranger Things. But so that's the pre-gen characters. They're nice. I mean, you know, it's not just crappy paper. The paper stock is pretty decent. So I mean, the paper stock's better than some of the actual character sheets that we purchased way back in the day when they used to have packs of character sheets. So we've got those, and then we got the adventure, which is it's embarrassing. It really is. All right, so I'll zoom out a little bit so we can see this here. Notes of myself. So yeah, I took some notes. I wrote down some notes for myself as the Dungeon Master. So early on in the book, it kind of presents. It's basically echoing what you just read in the starter rule book. So we've got some like artwork. So essentially, what this is supposed to be is this is supposed to be the game, the adventure that they're playing in the first season of Stranger Things, as written by a kid. So this like cursive, it's not really cursive, but the kind of font that they use where it's supposed to be, oh yeah, I'm writing my notes and we got the lined paper and stuff like that. This shtick gets old real fast. So we've got, okay, what's going on in the whole story? I'm not going to spoil anything. because there isn't a whole lot to spoil. Even right off the bat, it basically says that this adventure that's in this little booklet, this adventure is probably going to last you an evening, maybe a couple of sessions, if your players are having a really good time. So basically, the story is that the heroes are brought in to defeat a monster. You know, it's just the usual stuff. So they meet with Sir Tristan, who has entreated them with this quest, and I guess it's supposed to be somebody that the characters already have a background with, and it's another one of these deals where it's like, oh, I can't send my own palace guards to deal with this monster because, well, they're not good enough. So I need to bring in you heroes who you've already, performed quests for me. So really the hook is essentially, we're playing Dungeons and Dragons tonight, and this is how it is. You want to play D&D? This is it. So it's basically kind of, just conversation, setting you up. We got some rumors, because they're looking for the Thesla Hydra. They fight troglodytes, so we've got a little map there. We've got the keyed areas, and once again, this is what drives me nuts with a lot of the newer school stuff, and it's Pathfinder and D&D, where it's like, okay, well, you need to make a successful check against whatever, otherwise you're stuck. If it's like, okay, so you got to make a perception check for us to play Dungeons and Dragons tonight, that's really bad adventure design. It really is. Or you'll see a section where it's like, well, if you blow this roll, then some NPC is going to come and hand you the information that you needed in the first place. What the hell was the point of that anyway? There's a kind of random encounter chart. It's fairly, I should say, random, like labyrinth creation. There are some random encounters as well. Another thing that I really am irritated with, and it's in here too, same exact thing, is you can't be bothered to actually tell me what kind of treasure is in the room. Don't tell me it's like 150 gold pieces worth of treasure. Tell me what the hell it is. I bought your adventure, right? You're supposed to tell me these things. What's the point of me buying the adventure when I can just when I have to make this stuff up anyway? Hate that. Really, really hate that. There's some goofball riddles involved in this. Once again, can't get past the riddles. Boom, done playing D&D for the night. There is a reference to Stranger Things, though, in it. The Upside Down, where the characters actually meet the precious princess, who will not have anything to do with them, but will actually, I should say proud princess, will actually show them the way to fight the Thesla Hydra. And there you go. We get a picture of Troglodyte. We get a picture of the Thesla Hydra, as drawn by like a 10 or 12-year-old kid. And this adventure really does come across as something that would be put together by someone who's in middle school, not even a high school kid. I mean, this is written by, I want to say this is written by Ben Petrosor. So, and of course, lead design credit is given to Jeremy Crawford and Mike Merles. So, as far as the D&D Stranger Things starter set, we get the adventure book, which clocks in at about 16. Nah, I think it's like 22. Let's see. Jeez, they didn't even number the pages for me. It's not a lot. I think it's about 22 pages. Then we've got a 43-page rule book. So, if we compare this to the regular D&D starter set, the box set, that has I want to say it's a 64-page rule book and a 36-page adventure. The Minds of, isn't it Phandelver? I want to say it's the Minds of Phandelver, which, if you look at that, and I know people complain that was a fairly vanilla adventure, which vanilla isn't always bad. A first level adventure, especially if you're not doing an old school approach. Oops, I forgot to put the pre-generated characters back in. Anyway, I was going to say, kind of vanilla adventure isn't necessarily a bad thing, especially when you're not using an old school Renaissance approach, where you're concerned with modern approaches to role-playing games, where you make sure everything is balanced and you've got a challenge rating and things like that. What are you going to really throw at a first-level character outside of, goblins and, kobolds and stuff like that? So, at least one thing I had to point out was that in Minds of Phandelver, or however it's pronounced, you actually had some good sessions of adventure in that adventure. Like I said, this adventure here, it's just completely linear, and you're going to finish up in about 4 hours. This would be something that, I'd be embarrassed if I sat down at a convention and played an adventure like this, because it's super weak, very, very weak. So Kabuki Kid says at least it had original art somewhere in the box. Not good. Have I checked out Journey to Ragnarok or Adventures in Middle-earth 5e? Yeah, I'm very familiar with Adventures in Middle-earth. I get, now I'm getting Cubicle 7 sending me the physical books. Before it was just they would shoot me the PDFs. But I actually prefer the One Ring instead of Adventures in Middle-earth. In my opinion, Adventures in Middle-earth just has I don't want to use like wonky or fiddly or something like that. I think there are some mechanics that are added in there that I don't think mesh that well with 5th edition. So, Journey to Ragnarok, I had a news piece about, but I am not familiar with that at all. All right, so in the end, what are my final thoughts and what is my review score on the Dungeons & Dragons Stranger Things starter set? So, let me point out, if there's any reviewer out there who tells you that this is really good and this is an excellent introduction to Dungeons & Dragons, and if you're a fan of Stranger Things, you should get this, they're full of shit. I'll tell you that right now. If you run across, if you're a big fan of somebody who's a reviewer and they tell you that, this really belongs in your collection, I would start taking all of their reviews from there on out with a grain of salt, because I gotta be honest, I can't recommend anybody buying this. I don't know who this is for. I mean, that's part of the problem is I don't know who this is for. Number one, it says ages 14 and up. Well, I'll tell you what, any 14-year-old kid or higher is going to think that adventure is ridiculous. It's a waste of time. If you're a fan of Stranger Things, I don't know, you can easily go get that same artwork that's in the rule book online for free. There isn't anything else from Stranger Things really in here. So I mean, it's a fail both ways, right? So it's a fail as an introduction to D&D, because there's nothing in that rule book that's really going to whet your appetite. Be like, oh wow, hey, that owl bear looks really cool. That's a pretty cool looking monster. No, there's no visuals there. All you got are some still images from episodes of Stranger Things. If you're a fan of Stranger Things, you're not going to be happy about it either, because it's not a Stranger Things role-playing game. You're essentially supposed to be playing third-level characters that the kids in Stranger Things are playing in the first season. It smells. There's a smell in here I can't get rid of. I actually put this out in the garage for a few days to see if I could air it out. It's got this weird, like, chemical smell, almost like chemical ink smell. Every once in a while, I'll run across, like, it's usually a book that you can tell just when it came right off the press, went right into a package and came to my door. And then you got to kind of air it out. This still smells. The dice are kind of a disappointment. The only thing that's halfway decent in it is just the rule book itself. And once again, as I pointed out, that rule book is not going to like get anybody's juices flowing to play Dungeons and Dragons. It's interesting that this is not being promoted as a Wizards of the Coast product. Wizards of the Coast symbol is on there. Their logo's here. It's on the front and the back. But this is being promoted as Hasbro Gaming. And I can see why. Because anyone worth their salt who's working for Wizards of the Coast, working on Dungeons and Dragons in-house, would be embarrassed by this. I'm honestly really surprised that Jeremy Crawford and Mike Merles have their names on this. Although it's just as lead designers, not like they had anything to actually do with this, because I guarantee they didn't. The adventure is just is brutal too. It's terrible. So Kabuki Kid's like laughing. Tell it like it is, Jeff. Oh, come on, Robert. It's not like I'm, so I said one swear word. Flaming Huron says, watch the TV show instead. And wow, this is just not a good normie game. I mean, it's, if I go a scale of 1 to 10, I give this a 3. I mean, I can't recommend anybody to purchase it. I really can't. As an introduction to Dungeons and Dragons, it's a fail. For fans of Stranger Things, it's a fail. If you were interested in the miniatures, the 2 Demogorgons, those are fails. The dice, yeah, I could get the same kind of dice, probably with paint still on all the numbers, for about $3 online. So, kind of sad. I was disappointed. I really was. And as the Madman pointed out in chat, who just received his copy of the starter set, when you open it up and it's just all this air, you're like, okay. So, I don't dislike Wizards of the Coast. I don't have any problem with 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons. I don't have a beef with anyone who's involved with D&D. There is this weird misconception, because remember I told you I would touch on some of the stuff that was popping through in chat. There's a misconception about Wizards of the Coast, and especially with Dungeons and Dragons. And for an example, the term juggernaut was used as far as Wizards of the Coast. Wizards of the Coast is kind of like the redheaded stepchild of Hasbro. Wizards of the Coast does not bring in much as far as their profit. I believe if you take all the Avalon Hill, all the Wizards of the Coast D&D stuff, all the Magic the Gathering stuff, put it all together, I think it all adds up to less than 2% of Hasbro's sales. So there have been things off the record that have floated out to me over the past, I don't know, year and a half maybe, that there is actually a push within Hasbro to just pull the plug on D&D. Just pull the plug on it. Use it as, as an IP for cartoons or maybe movies, because supposedly they've got that Dungeons and Dragons movie in the works. But as far as something that they're going to produce a lot of game content for, they're fighting back against that. As far as the folks who are working on Dungeons and Dragons, the team is really small. There are, I think, less than 12 people working on D&D full-time for Wizards of the Coast. They hire a lot of freelancers, but there are not that many people who are in-house. So I actually kind of pull for the folks who are working on D&D because I understand. I mean, their backs are kind of to the wall. I guarantee they're overworked. But for the most part, most of the releases that we see that come out for Dungeons & Dragons are at least decent. Some actually really good. Some, especially early on. The first few adventures that came out, I thought were like just awful. Robert Moffat says at least it didn't get a 0. No, I wouldn't give it a 0. You know what actually boosts it up is the actual rule book, because outside of not having artwork and not really jumping out and being really generic, right? No forbidden or not, no forgotten realms or anything like that. I almost said forbidden lands. None of that's in there, so it's very, very generic. It's just very mechanical, but it still works. So the rule book itself isn't like broken, just not presented in a way that's very exciting. So here's my recommendation. If you don't have Dungeons and Dragons, if you don't have the 5th edition, don't have the core books, like the Player's Handbook, Dungeon Master's Guide, Monster Manual, what have you, you can get the original Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition starter set from Walmart for, wait for it, $8.34. If you want to check out 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons, then my recommendation would be go to walmart.com, place an order for the D&D starter set for $8.34. It's normally, I think it's $17.99. Boom, there you go. There you'll have your introduction to Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition, a better rule book, a much better adventure. That's certainly, granted, it's a little on the blander side, but I have to give it kudos because it does introduce a lot of the core elements to Dungeons and Dragons to new players. Now you say, hey, well, what about Stranger Things? I really like Stranger Things. Well, I'll tell you what. Go to Drive-Thru RPG, go and take a look at Kids on Bikes in PDF from Hunters Entertainment and Renegade Game Studios, and get the PDF for $9.99. Not only do you get a D&D starter set for less than $9, you can get a very, very Stranger Things-ish role-playing game in PDF for less than $10. And if you want to spend a little bit of money, I definitely recommend Tales from the Loop from Free League Publishing, although in PDF that is $24.99. But that is another really good role-playing game that has that you can easily do a Stranger Things sort of vibe to. To my knowledge, there's nothing out there right now that is a Stranger Things licensed role-playing setting. So that's why I mentioned Tales from the Loop as well as Kids on Bikes. All right, so that is it for tonight's show. I think I covered everything that was popping around as far as questions. Let me take a look. Pretty much. So yes, so I do have to point out, because I know the Madman shot me a tweet on Twitter earlier, and if you don't follow me on Twitter, be sure to, at thegaminggang.com, talking about how you just gotten this, hadn't opened up yet. Yeah, so unfortunately, Madman shares my disappointment as well, because I was looking forward to it. I was hoping I would like it. Unfortunately, I did not. And it's been a long time since I actually gave something a poor score. All right, so as I like to point out, when you're not watching episodes of the Daily Dope or other Gaming Gang videos on the Gaming Gang channel here at YouTube, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com for all the latest in gaming news, reviews, comics, movies, TV. By now you know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. I will be back tomorrow with my review of Forum Trajanum from Stronghold Games. So those of you who joined me in chat tonight, thank you very much for hanging out, keeping me company. For those of you who watched live or who are watching after the fact, thank you very much for watching. Thanks again for watching The Daily Dope, presented by The Gaming Gang. If you like this episode, be sure to give it a quick thumbs up. And if you dig the channel, please subscribe. If you'd like to check out our previous episode, click right here. And if you want to check out a somewhat randomly selected episode, give a click right down here. It'll be like opening a box of Cracker Jacks. You just don't know what you'll get. Once again, thanks for watching, and I'm Jeff McAleer.